Good morning and welcome everybody, and welcome to Jacky Close, the Executive Officer of the Outer East Primary Care Partnership, who's our guest coffee with interviewee this morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're chatting on Wurundjeri land and pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Jacky, who commenced with the PCP at the Outer East in 2006, so 15 years of service. So that makes Jacky one of the longest serving PCP EOs in the state and a greatly respected one. Jacky's background is she's worked across local government, the Department of Human Services. She's been a researcher in molecular biology, I believe, and qualified in genetics before switching and doing another degree in social work. And Jacky has also worked across child protection and disability services, so has a really broad range of skills and knowledge of sectors that obviously she's brought to PCPs for many years. So Jacky, I'm really keen to hear a bit about, I guess your extensive knowledge of PCPs, in that time. PCPs have adapted to many reforms and varying needs of partner organisations. So how have PCPs made a difference in your term?
Wow. Yeah, as you say, Tracey, that I think PCPs have ridden the wave of a lot of change at a reform level and at a programmatic level, at a governance level. So I guess probably what stands out for me through that period of time looking back is that they have been consistent. They've actually, it sounds like a strange thing to say, but they've actually been there through all of that where some maybe haven't come out the other end, and PCPs have continued on I suppose what I find really amazing is as a statewide platform. It would be hard to imagine any other, I can't think of any other area where there has been a statewide platform in place, coordinating, collaborating, working together across Victoria for so many years. And it was in existence well before I started as well. It came into play, I think, back in '99 when PCPs first came into being, and it's such, well, you yourself have been part of it, so you can see its strength and the camaraderie and the companionship and the support that exists across the state. It's quite unique. So I think that fact that there has been consistency through all of this change is something that really needs to be acknowledged. Because it's been the effort of many, many people over a long time. I suppose one of the other things that I think from a local level has been of value during this adaptive change and all of the reform and things that have happened around us is that you often hear the local partners talking about PCPs as being like Switzerland. So that notion of independent. So as the world changes around, not only is the PCP platform stable and there for them, but it's also independent of the changes. So it allows partners and local organisations to come together and have conversations in safe spaces that they themselves probably can't create or provide. So I think that's been a really valuable asset of PCPs over the time. It's continued, and because of that, it's continued to form a base where it can provide a space where organisations can come together and not just have conversations about the change and how they deal with it, but actually to become active and identify opportunities in that. So no matter what the contemporary issue is and where we land with the change, there's a platform there that allows new and evolving activities to emerge out of that change. So I think that has also been a really important thing. And one of the other concepts that I remember, I think it was Andrew Hollows, a consultant who worked with PCPs many years ago, still around, still writing really interesting things. He spoke about the drag and drop capacity of PCPs, and being that something can be established in one particular area and it can be dragged and dropped into another area and it can evolve there. And that concept I thought was a really interesting one, that and a strength that PCPs have continued to demonstrate over time, that drag and drop capacity. And probably just finally, another reflection would be how we've changed over time. Back when I started, the mantra of PCPs was all around service coordination and chronic disease management. And incredible amount of work and system reform, though we might not have called it that in the time, and an incredible amount of knowledge, and probably looking back now, I'd say real innovation and creativity during that period around the concept of service coordination and care coordination, which we have moved away from because we've evolved into another space. We've evolved into more solidly into the prevention space and the community engagement and participation space. But, you know, I think that shows that PCPs have a real manoeuvrability and flexibility as change happens across the sector, to identify what's needed and go, okay, we can move into that space and assist. So those would just be probably some of my reflections.
Absolutely, totally agree. So you mentioned innovation and creativity. So what have been some of the real outstanding achievements of the Outer East PCP and your partners?
You know, obviously when you're asked a question like that, the bigger, more obvious things jump to mind. So I can certainly list some more of the bigger projects that I would think are innovative and creative. But there's so many little things that also that I probably fail to mention that others may think are more valuable. But in terms of the big ones, I'd probably, looking right back, would be the work in e-care planning and e-care coordination that was done with a number of PCPs and many organisations locally and in the Inner East. Absolutely. It was a strong partnership the two PCPs had. A lot of really fantastic resources that came out of that that would hugely beneficial for practitioners and valued by practitioners and clients and consumers and the community. So that to me is a standout. And even though it's not front facing now, all that work's still there, and all that learnings and that knowledge is still there. So I sort of have a hope that one day the penny will drop about how valuable it can be in other sectors, and that it'll come back to life again. More recently, some of the client journey mapping work, where in an environment where there's a lot of change, we moved into the space of looking at developing client personas to try and actually bring forward the client experience into system redesign and change. And so there was two pieces there, one focused on mental health, one focused in the hoarding area. So those have been, more recent pieces, and hopefully, and certainly the mental health one has been picked up into state and used in a range of different settings. So that's really exciting. Being able to partner with Vic Health, Women's Health East, or more broadly TIFA, to do the national research into the gender equality messaging work. So that was something that I would say, you know, we were really excited about, and it actually broadened our focus out to partner with Vic Health, which extends the reach and the impact of a project beyond the local, which was great. And very importantly, you know, the Outer East PCP, when I started, already had a consumer reference group going, and that group lasted for, well, I think it wound up about 2 years ago, but it lasted all the time that I was around. And, you know, that's not my doing, but, you know, it was to the credit of the wonderful consumers who were dedicated through that whole time to continue to try and make a difference in the Outer East. So that would be something that I'd hang my hat on, even though it was them that did that work. And of course, the Well, which is a project that both the Inner East and the Outer East have worked on for a number of years. And, you know, I'm proud of that because we were often heard people telling us that they needed one source of truth, they needed to understand what was going on locally, that information was often, and research and projects were often done and lost and forgotten. And the fact that we listened to that and have struggled over the years to actually establish a resource that responds to that request from partners, I think I would say was something that I'm really proud of. And I guess one other piece that jumps to mind is the piece we did on with the family violence advocates around busting the myths in the development of the video, which, because it was driven by those advocates and it was very much around their voice and what they needed, and we learned a lot through that process. That would stand out to me as one of the other pieces. But there are lots of little things, as you know, Tracey, there are lots of little things where you just do a little bit and it makes a big difference to those involved as well.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and, you know, PCPs are partnership platforms, so we're organisations, but we're also partnerships. So.
And often, if you do your job well, then you're actually not seen as the deliverer of the end product. You're actually working behind the scenes to create the positive outcomes. So that's so it's hard to often say what are the big things that we've achieved, because they're not ours to own necessarily. Simply.
You're the catalyst, you're the glue,
yes,
you're the ongoing support. And often the
whatever's needed.
Absolutely. Look, and that's a tremendous you know, range of fabulous projects that you've done, Jacky. So what have been the highlights for you as an actor?
Well, I'd probably say, you know, throughout the years, like everybody in their jobs, you have your ups and downs. And when you sort of have a down and you sort of think, well, really, you come to the conclusion, what else would I do? You know, it's a job that you meet so many different people. You have so much opportunity to be flexible and move around, as we've sort of spoken about, into different areas. You have the space to be innovative and creative, and to identify needs and help out and actually see a difference happen. So for me, that would probably be the sorry, the cat just burst in through the door. For me, that would be the thing that's kept me going for so long, is that innovation and creativity and those opportunities for those sorts of things. I guess, as you would say too, it's the staff, you know, because it's often their innovation and creativity that you get to bask in. And so having great staff and great partners who have the will and the motivation and the drive to do these things, that's been a highlight for me. As I said before, the Vic PCP, being able to participate in that statewide platform, has been a real highlight. And probably, you know, the wonderful support that I've always had from our executive governance group, consistency, and just real personal friendship support, guidance, has made the job really memorable and easy, basically. And great partners like the Inner East, of course.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrific to be involved with so many leaders of so many organisations.
Yeah, and it's not their core business, but they see the value in it, and they I guess what I've found is they appreciate the challenge of the partnership, and they are grateful and thankful and for the presence of that. So they provide their support and guidance where they can, which has been fantastic.
Indeed. So looking forward, we're in a period of transition. What are your hopes for the platform into the future?
Well, gee, you know, it feels like we've been through change in the past. We know that, but right now it feels like there's a huge amount. It feels like it's happening in all around the place. I hope that as PCPs settle into, or local partnering settles into whatever model it is in the future, that it's able to retain that flexibility that we spoke about and the innovation and creativity that I feel has been so such an important part of its history, well, certainly for the last 15 years for me, that we can retain that local base, that local focus, and that's allowed to evolve as it needs to locally, but that drag and drop capacity is still there. You know, we can still work and focus locally, but we can keep an eye to how this might be useful more broadly. I think that would be really important. And whilst we talk about innovation, creativity, doing projects, doing initiatives, doing outcomes, I think one time the penny dropped for me that sometimes it's really just valuable creating a space where people can come together and network. You know how you have your partnerships spectrum all the way from networking through to, you know, complex collaborative initiatives. Sometimes I think we forget, or certainly I did, how important it is just to let people come together and network and speak to each other and get to know each other. And so I hope that that's not lost, that it's not all about achieving, you know, complex collaborative outcomes, that there is space left for just letting people get together and know each other. Particularly, you know, it's evident after the last 18 months that we've had how important that is, not just for achieving outcomes, but just for everybody's well-being, really. You know, I was just saying, and that to me sort of, you know, from that will flow and stem and flower the creativity and innovation and outcomes that come from it. So you actually need that foundation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, you've just described a whole lot of highlights in your term, just for you personally, and also achievements of the PCP platform and your aspirations for the future. But you're also leaving us, Jack, and that's after a stellar career, and was certainly the reason behind wanting to have a chat with you and to really capture some of that in the Coffee With today. So what's next for Jack?
I don't know, Tracey. I think, you know, I'm going to be using some of my long service leave just to have a break for a while. I feel that it's important to create some space just to stop thinking for a while and to allow something else to emerge. I really feel like while you're preoccupied thinking and planning and maybe try not to micromanage my future, I guess, just to allow something to evolve and come along and to make some space for that to happen is where I'm at. So I have no specific plans for a career future at this point. I'm just going to see how I feel in a month or two and what's come up. Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, we miss Jack. I mean, you've got such a diverse range of skills. So whatever you choose to go ahead and do, I've got no doubt that you'll be fantastic at it, and
Thank you, Tracey.
it will be in big demand once you put yourself out there. And you've also given a great plug for any future person to come in and step into your role about, you know, how terrific it really is. And, you know, we're all obviously very positive about the work that we're doing going forward, and, you know, hope that we can really capture and maintain those high value functions that, you know, we value and our partners value. So I wanted to thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Tracey. Thank you too for all your friendship and collegial support. It's been great. It's been really, really great.
Thank you. And you've been a great mentor to come in and, you know, observe and contact when I've needed. So thank you so much, and for all your support to our team as well. And it's been great being able to do a lot of regional projects together as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, indeed. And, you know, change is inevitable, as we know. So it's important to take those opportunities and take those learnings and create anew, I think.
Okay, well, I wish you all the very best.
Thanks, Tracey.
We'll watch this space. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Bye-bye.
Bye.